Starlink V3 satellites imaging Starship V3 in orbit tightens the feedback loop between constellation hardware and next block vehicle development. This is SpaceX Daily, episode 53. A next-generation Starlink satellite captured imagery of Starship V3 while both vehicles were in orbit. The sighting confirms Starship V3 reached orbital altitude during its test campaign. Reports indicate the Starlink V3 unit used upgraded imaging sensors to document the upper stage. Observers note the event occurred on the same day as ongoing Block 3 flight preparations at Starbase. Next steps include verification of vehicle attitude and thermal performance from the new vantage point. While orbital imagery tightens the Starship development loop, ground infrastructure at Starbase is also being upgraded to match. Crews continue structural and plumbing upgrades at Starbase Pad 1, while Pad 2 supports the first two Block 3 flights. Retrofit work focuses on flame trench modifications and quick disconnect hardware rated for higher propellant flow rates. The changes align Pad 1 with the increased thrust and mass of Starship V3 vehicles. Completion timelines remain tied to the next static fire window. Pad 1 work proceeds in parallel with active operations at the newer pad. With launch pads being readied, aerodynamic data from wind tunnel testing will help define how the upgraded vehicles fly. NASA and SpaceX completed additional wind tunnel runs on Starship configurations at multiple Mach numbers. The test measured aerodynamic forces on both the Super Heavy booster and ship upper stage with updated tile layouts. Data will refine re-entry trajectory models for the next flight test window. Engineers compared results against prior subscale models to validate scaling assumptions. The joint effort supplies updated coefficients for guidance and thermal protection analysis. From an engineering standpoint, wind tunnel testing of Starship configurations measures lift, drag, and moment coefficients across the Mach range the vehicle will encounter during re-entry. The tests isolate the effect of tile gap geometry and surface roughness on boundary layer transition, which directly controls local heating rates. By comparing full-scale derived models against earlier subscale runs, engineers quantify how Reynolds number scaling alters the location of transition and therefore the total integrated heat load on the heat shield tiles. Updated tile layouts tested in the latest campaign reflect changes made after Flight 13 data review. Reducing uncertainty in those coefficients shrinks the propellant margin required for the deorbit burn and the subsequent bank angle profile that keeps peak heating within tile limits. The same dataset feeds the guidance algorithm that commands the ship's reaction control thrusters and body flaps, tightening the corridor the vehicle must fly to survive peak dynamic pressure. When the measured aerodynamic database narrows the predicted heating envelope, the design can either reduce tile thickness, lowering mass, or accept a higher entry velocity that would otherwise exceed current thermal margins. Either outcome improves payload to orbit or increases the number of reuses before refurbishment, directly attacking the cost per kilogram floor that determines whether rapid reuse is economically viable. The wind tunnel results also inform the next round of computational fluid dynamics validation runs that will be used to certify the Block 3 heat shield configuration. Historical parallels exist in how early reusable launch vehicles refined their thermal protection databases through iterative ground testing before achieving operational reuse rates. Starship's approach follows the same logic. Close the gap between predicted and actual heating so that the idiot index, the ratio of finished heat shield cost to raw material and energy inputs, can be driven down through manufacturing scale and reduced over-design. Continued tunnel work therefore serves as the immediate lever for both performance and economics on the path to routine orbital operations. High-speed footage released from recent Starship tests shows the ship upper stage separating, while the Super Heavy booster engines remain lit. The sequence captures the precise timing of hot staging ignition and the resulting plume interaction. Engineers use the video to verify separation dynamics and engine gimbal response under load. The released clip provides direct visual confirmation of the staging sequence used on Flight 13. The same staging sequence the wind tunnel models assume was recently captured on high-speed video. A Falcon 9 lifted off from Vandenberg Space Force Base carrying 24 Starlink satellites. The mission used a first-stage booster on a return-to-launch site profile after payload deployment. Launch occurred on the evening of July 31 with real-time webcast coverage confirming stage separation and fairing recovery. The satellites will join the existing constellation to expand coverage density. Ground teams reported nominal performance across all phases of the flight. A second Falcon 9 mission from Vandenberg was scheduled for the evening of August 1 with another batch of 24 Starlink satellites. The launch uses the same booster turnaround process demonstrated on the prior flight. Ground teams reported no holds during pre-launch checks. The mission continues the rapid reuse cadence at the California site. SpaceX confirmed an upcoming Falcon 9 mission from Vandenberg after the July 31 Starlink flight. The manifest continues the site's role in polar orbit deployments separate from Starbase Starship operations. The additional mission underscores the dual-site launch strategy now in routine use. While Starship hardware and testing move forward, Falcon operations continue their steady cadence on the other coast. SpaceX plans to fly initial hardware for orbital data center demonstrations no earlier than 2027. The components would leverage Starlink laser links for intersatellite data routing and power from solar arrays sized for continuous compute loads. Development remains dependent on Starship orbital refueling milestones. The timeline aligns with broader efforts to place compute nodes in low Earth orbit. The same Starlink constellation now supporting vehicle imagery is also being positioned as the backbone for future orbital compute. On the AI front, SpaceX AI added another data center building in Memphis, drawing local reaction over construction scale and power demand from the growing cluster. SpaceX delayed removal of xAI's unpermitted temporary turbines in Memphis until 2027, while permanent power infrastructure is completed for the Colossus expansion. Investors submitted questions on Starship, Starlink, and AI infrastructure through the Grok Q&A portal ahead of SPCX earnings. Worth keeping an eye on, a contractor filed a $137 million lien against the SpaceX AI site in Memphis, citing unpaid work on data center construction. The claim adds to earlier reports of more than $130 million in disputed invoices from multiple firms. Resolution depends on payment negotiations or formal dispute proceedings that could affect construction pace for the expanding facility. Local officials have not yet commented on the filing. On the ground, the terrestrial side of that compute push is drawing fresh scrutiny. Reddit users discussed the engineering trade-offs of towing a spent Starship upper stage across open ocean after splashdown, focusing on tow point loads and sea state limits that affect recovery feasibility. Community members shared unverified imagery from a Starlink V3 satellite showing Starship in orbit and debated pixel-scale resolution limits of the onboard cameras. Observers noted the visual differences between the latest hot staging plume and earlier test footage, attributing changes to updated engine throttling profiles during separation. Before we go, the next static fire window will show whether Pad 1 retrofits keep pace with Block 3 flight preparations. And that's a wrap on today's SpaceX developments. SPCX is trading at $108.37, down 3.9%. Share this with a fellow spaceflight fan if you found it useful, and subscribe so you don't miss tomorrow's episode. I'm Patrick in Vancouver. See you next time. Quick tip from the network. Try Tesla Shorts Time next. Your daily deep dive into everything Tesla. Every Nara Network show is free at naranetwork.com. And on the website, every episode's visuals live in our free image gallery at naranetwork.com/gallery. Royalty-free under Creative Commons. Download with attribution. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.